was teaching us some things in life. And he said these things very
Awesome. Thanks. You get better at it, it's great. To start out the morning, I kind of have a random video that I tried to fit into the lesson and make it biblical. It's not really biblical at all, but it's really funny. A friend showed it to me. So if you could go ahead and play the video. Please.
Watch that.
I'm going to try and make that biblical and all for you guys this morning. But the overall theme is, like Justin coined the phrase, get served or whatever. So just talking along the lines of servanthood and stuff like that. So starting off in Mark, chapter 9, 33 through 35, it says, they came, alright, so the disciples and Jesus are on their way to Capernaum, and Jesus overhears them bickering. And so that's why I showed the video. I like to imagine them being in a circle and they're like, oh, just like going back and forth on each other. And they're arguing about who is the greatest. Something that we do a lot even though we don't notice. And Jesus calls them out on it, and they keep quiet. And then Jesus sits down and tells them, anyone who wants to be first must be very last and the servant of all. And right then and there, they're like, what the heck, Jesus, like, serving others, that's dumb. We're in the business of being the best and the greatest here. And then moving on to Mark chapter 10, I think it's 10:35. Okay. So it's really neat because the same message is within 2 chapters of each other. So it's kind of like the Bible's like pounding this into us like, this is an important message, which I think is really neat. But James and John go up to Jesus and they're like, hey, Jesus, we have a great idea. We want to call sitting next to you in heaven. We want to be on the left and right of you. Is that cool, Jesus? And Jesus is like, he's like, what do you want me to do for you? And they want to sit at the right side of them in his glory. And he's like, Jesus says, you don't know what you're asking. Can you be baptized in baptism with me? And they're like, we can. And what he's saying here is, you can go to heaven, but it's not up for me to decide if you're on the left or the right hand of me. It's not all like, why are you even thinking about where you're going to be in heaven? But just be content that you have the opportunity to. And so, we go on to the next slide, Justin. So Jesus calls the disciples together, and he's like, the rulers here, the Pharisees, the Gentiles, and stuff like that, the high officials, I'm teaching a completely different message than they show us here. They're in the business of making themselves look good. They're in the business of praying in front of others all the time, and in the business of, just making themselves, building themselves up. So they're at the top. But then Jesus says, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and give life as a ransom for many. And again, within a chapter of each other, he says this again. He has to remind his disciples that this life isn't about you. It's about serving the Lord and humbling yourself. Because when you're in the bottom, when you're serving, that's when you can lift each other up in the most. And probably a great example I heard the past week was I had someone speak at FCA, and he was talking about he was on the cross-country team, and whenever he had his best races, his team did the worst. But when he ran as a team and when he pumped each other up, they would all do the greatest as a team, but he would always get the worst time. And that's because they would be running up a hill and he would be pushing his teammates and stuff like that. It gets a little technical, but I thought it was so neat. But you can move on, Justin. So the ultimate story of servanthood is when Jesus, in John 13, he gets down on his knees and he cleans the feet of his disciples. And it doesn't matter if it was 2,000 years ago or today, that's still really disgusting. It's not normal. They didn't go around washing each other's feet. That wasn't the norm. It's just as gross as back then as it is today. And especially gross because they would walk everywhere in their feet and sandals and stuff. But you can go ahead and show the videos. Okay, so I just showed that video to kind of like, kind of get you in that moment there. There is the God and the Lord over all of us. He's on earth, and he's washing the feet of his disciples, of those that he loves dearly. And that's why he came to earth. And it's hard to wrap around that, Like, why would he do that? And the disciples even try and say, hey, Jesus, you shouldn't be washing our feet, But he's like, no, I need to do this, I need to serve. And when you read that chapter, it's really neat because when a few chapters on, a little bit later, that's when the torture, that's when his walk to the cross and stuff like that begins. So think of the situation that Jesus is in at this point. He's thinking, I don't know the exact timetable of it, but within a day or so, I'm going to die, I'm going to be beaten, I'm going to be tortured, I'm going to go to the cross. But here is Jesus washing the feet of his disciples. That's not normal. I'm sure he was afraid. I mean, he was afraid. But he could have been doing a lot of other things. He could have been, praying, chilling, or whatever. But he thought it was important enough to forget his anxieties of what is to come, and going to the cross and serve others, build others up. And then, if you look at it again, Jesus knows that Judas is going to betray him, and yet he washes the feet of Judas, which is really neat to see because that's Jesus saying, I can rise above the situation, I can rise above the evil that stands in my face right here, and love can prevail, which is just amazing to see. So just going beyond the context of him washing the feet, but he's in this terrible situation where he probably shouldn't be feeling the greatest. He probably has an upset stomach because he's about to go to the cross. I mean, just everything from that, and he shows that it's important enough to serve others, even when he's he's sad, scared, stuff like that. So, what can serving mean to you? The Bible is just filled with verses on serving and giving to God, giving to others and stuff. But what can that mean to you? There's kind of a preconceived notion that we all think that the best way you can serve God is, going to Africa, going on mission trips. You have to be a preacher. You have to do this or that so that you can give the most to God. And I've especially seen that at Centennial, working with FCA and stuff. I talk to kids and they're like, yeah, I can't do as much as you, Patrick. Like, you're up there talking every day. I can't speak as well in front of others. But that is the biggest lie right there, because God has given us all different talents and different things like that. Donnie Mangan, he is great at giving the word and interpreting it and speaking. That's what he's really good at. But then again, we have Judy Gage, who does the behind-the-scenes work, and that's her best way of serving God and serving the Lord. And that's like, she could be doing more for God than, say a preacher is, in front of 1,000 people. But she's doing it in the name of God, and God has, called each and every one of us to different positions and stuff like that. And so